2 of our long distance, and here is the next set of videos for our what do you want to call it, for our lessons for this upcoming week. We will be covering sections 3.3 and 3.4. This one is 3.3. This is a reminder also that that you make sure you guys are looking at your announcements as to what assignments are due and when. Please check your Teams page for this class on the days that we have class. Remember, I also have Zoom meetings scheduled for us to be able to meet if you have any questions or concerns. Okay, but make sure we're getting everything done for our assignments. If you have any questions, just make sure you message me somehow. All right, so today we're going to be talking about and listening to, and your notes are going to be on pages 8 and 9. We're going to be talking about what is called rotations. And when we talk about rotations, we're dealing with a degree, anywhere from 0 degrees all the way around in a full circle to 360 degrees. And we're rotating, okay? Now, as you see a rotation here, we're always going to assume if it hasn't been defined, it's always going to be counterclockwise, okay? If it says clockwise, then it'll say that, but if it only says rotation, we're always going to go counterclockwise, which would be this direction, okay? Now in rotations, and we're going to talk about things here, and I don't want to use this example in creating a 45-degree rotation around this whole thing. Ones we're going to be working with specifically are 90 degrees, 180 degrees, and 270 degrees. And we're going to do them all from the origin of a graph. This one shows in random spots. Here we have our point of origin, which is going to be A, in this case, on our rotations, okay? Now, with that being said, looks like it's a little blurry there. Let's see if it gets focusing a little bit better. Not too bad. Okay, so we have a pointer. So I like to compare this as if we were going to nail something to the ground or put something in the ground and it cannot move. And then we have an extension, whether with a piece of wood or string or any of that kind of stuff. And we're going to attach it to one of the ends of of the figure or picture or shape that we have. And then we're going to rotate it counterclockwise in a circle format. Okay. Now, I also like to compare it to basketball. When you pick up a dribble or you get a pass and you do it right before you dribble, you can only pivot on one foot. So the foot is like kind of nailed to the ground. Once that foot is picked up off the ground and you move the other foot, it's called traveling. But you could go in circles left or right, rotating counterclockwise, clockwise around until you either take a shot at the basket or you pass it off to somebody else or something like that. It goes on. But that one foot needs to stay steady in the ground, on the ground at all times. Same thing with rotations, okay? So that's what we got here. And so when we rotate that here, so when we go back and now look at this scenario over here, example number 2, it says we want to try to find out what rotation. Remember, we're rotating counterclockwise. This is our pre-image, and this is our image, and this is our A and A prime, C and C prime, B, C prime, and B and B prime, and so forth. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and rotate about this. This is where we're stuck, and it's not going to move. Let's extend it out to this vertex here. And we see that there. Then, as we see we rotate it, it rotates pretty much up to here. Look what this creates. Pretty much a 90-degree angle for the most part. We can kind of guesstimate saying that we have a 90-degree rotation in this scenario. Okay? So, but ones we're going to be concentrating mostly all have to do with the coordinate plane, and that's what we're going to tell you all the rules about right now. So here we go. So here's our rules. Okay, the first one we're going to talk about is the 90-degree rotation. Okay, with a 90-degree rotation, you have your original points, which is our image or our pre-image, and then this is what our new image is going to look like. So look what happens here. Our X's and Y's, they're switching spots. But the X stays the same value, whereas the Y changes to its opposite. So that's a good rule to remember. Good example over here, given to us. Here's our original point, 5, 2. Okay, as you can see, what we're going to do is we're going to swap these two. See, and the 5 and the 2 spots change spots, but the X as it showed in the, or I'm sorry, the Y being positive in the original one, and now it's going to be the opposite, which is negative, and there's our new coordinate point, and that gives us a rotation of about 90 degrees. All right, next one, 180 degrees rotation. I like this one the best because it's the easiest one to remember, where you have your original numbers of X and Y, and then basically it's changing both of them to their opposite. No switching or swapping spots, just one going either from positive to negative or negative to positive. Now with that being said, let's look at our example here. 5, 2. And all we have to do is just change them to their opposite signs. So they're both positive, these will both change to negative, and we're a done deal. Pretty good idea, huh? Now, going down here to our last one, which is rotating around 270 degrees, which is almost a full circle. It's 390-degree angles added up. So here we go. Now look at this one. So this is pretty much the opposite of what we did for the 90-degree rotation. Okay, whereas we're swapping again. But this time the X changed to negative and the Y stays the same sign. Okay, so here's our scenario. So they swap spots, as you can see. Okay, the 5 is now second and the 2 is now first. But then again, going back here, the X changes to its opposite sign. Since 5 is negative, positive here, it's going to go negative here. And therefore we have our new rotation. Now, one thing to mention that will help you out here, remember, all these are based on what? Going counterclockwise, okay? Counterclockwise and counterclockwise. Important to that. So if it doesn't say anything about it, now here's the rules. So these are basically opposite of each other. So if we wanted to go, this is the same rule for 270 degrees. This is going clockwise, okay? 180 degrees stays the same no matter what. And then if we go clockwise on this one, this would be the 90 degrees clockwise. So you might want to write that there in on your notes too. Okay, we only have 4 examples to really go over together in these scenarios. So let's go ahead and look at those. I'm going to put this aside for now, and we're going to look at example number 2. Okay, now we're going to assume this is going to be about from the origin. So we're just going to take the coordinates of this scenario because they're talking about doing it from this point here, and you're not going to see any of those type of questions on a test or quiz for that stuff. Okay, so it says we're going to go 115 degrees clockwise. We're going to change 115, and let's change it to 90 degrees. I'm going to look at my notes here. Yeah, let's go 90 degrees. Now, a key word here is what? Clockwise. So what I would do is I go back to my little list here, and let's find out where it says 90 degrees clockwise. Oh, it's the one down here, and look at, and what I would do is I'd write down this rule, knowing that I need to swap it to that. So we know that the X and the Y change, and the X goes to negative. So I'm going to sit there and put up here, okay, we're going to go Y, comma, negative X. That's what we need to switch it to. That's all I'm going to ask you to do for this type of a question. Okay? All right. So let's take the first one. Let's go D prime. We're going to swap spots. So it's going to be, I'm going to keep them both positive at this point because we know that the Y is going to stay the same. So that means we look at that, and that means it's getting negative. And that means the X is -2, so that means we're going to change it to positive. So there is our answer for the D prime. Let's go to E now. Put our things, and I'm going to put them both in as positive for now because we want to make sure we're doing it right. So let's see, so the Y goes in the front, so Y is positive. That means the 1 is going to stay positive here in the front. Now the X up here is negative, and it says that we need to change it to its opposite. So that's going to stay the same too, so they both are 1, 1. And then the next one with our F, let's go +1 and +1 again. Same scenario we have here again. We notice that the Y is going to switch spots, so the Y is -1. So this goes negative, okay, because it stays negative. And then the X goes to the second spot, but it says to do what? Change it to its opposite. So this ends up being a -1, and this would be our final answer, okay? All right, let's look at the next one. Here we go. Can't see the grid too much on this one. I don't know why. If I zoom in a little bit more. focus in a little bit more. Maybe it'll work. Can't really see a grid very well at all. Okay, so I apologize maybe if I turn on the light. Ooh, that helps out a little bit more. Okay, so again, same scenario. This time we're going to go, and what I make in my notes on this one, I want to make it, let's keep it 90 degrees. Let's keep it 90 degrees and make sure we got counterclockwise. So then I would write down our rule because of that. And going back to our rule for 90-degree clockwise, this is going to be the opposite of what we talked about before. Where am I at? Here we go. Okay, where the y and the x swap spots, and the y now changes to its opposite. Okay, so here we go. So we get y and x, and this time the y changes to a negative. I gotta make sure I make my notes right. So let's go ahead and do that. Same thing here. So we're gonna go a prime, and we're gonna go 2, 1, but the x stays the same, so x is 1, stays 1 here. The 2 is negative, so the 2 now will turn what? Positive, so we leave it just like that. Okay, let's go b now. Again, we're going to swap spots. We got 4 and 6. We're going to go 6 and 4 now. And now we look at that because the x stays the same, so x was 4 here, that'll stay 4. The 6 is negative, so that means we need to change it to its opposite, which is positive, which gives us there. Okay, then we go c prime. Swap spots, which is 6 and 1, what we had from up here. Again, x stays the same, so x is 1, x stays 1 here. 6 is negative, now it goes positive, and so that's our final answer on that part. Okay, so with that being said, let's go ahead and plot these points on here and see how it goes. So we're going to go 6, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and up 1. That's going to be my c prime. B is going to be 6, 4. 2, 3, 4, so that's my b prime, and then my a is going to be 2, 1, which is right here. That's my a prime. So here's what our picture looks like as our primes. Okay, so let's do the original one, see if it looks close to being 90 degrees counterclockwise. So let's go 1, -2, 1, -2. That's a prime. We go 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and down 6, which is 5, 6. This is going to be my B, and C is going to be 1, -6, which would be right around here, which would be C. So if I were to rotate that 90 degrees, that's what it should look like. And it looks like we made it look pretty good on that one. Okay. All right. So if you guys have any questions or concerns on that one, we're going to stop here at this point, because I'm going to do the last 2 examples on part 2 of this whole thing, just because of time purposes. What I would rather want you to do is try to do these on your own, and then go from there and then see how that you match with mine. All right, we'll see you in a few minutes.